The morning of January 15, 1947, began with a chilling discovery that would permanently scar the landscape of post-war Los Angeles. In the quiet Leimert Park neighborhood, a local resident walking with her young daughter noticed what appeared to be a discarded object lying in the tall, dry grass of a vacant lot. As she moved closer, the realization set in with sickening clarity. It was not a mannequin, but the body of a young woman. The crime scene was immediately secured by the LAPD, and the victim was identified as 22-year-old Elizabeth Short. She had been found in a position that suggested careful, deliberate placement. The city of Los Angeles, already dealing with the pressures of post-war growth and social change, was plunged into a state of shock. The brutality of the crime was unlike anything the city had ever encountered. The victim had been drained of blood and posed with a precision that hinted at a perpetrator who possessed a chilling degree of control. The local media, always looking for a sensational headline, latched onto the case almost instantly. It was dubbed the Black Dahlia Murder, a name derived from her dark hair and a popular film playing in theaters at the time. This branding transformed a tragic loss of life into a public spectacle that would dominate the newspapers for weeks. Hundreds of detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department were assigned to the case, forming a massive task force to track down the killer. They established temporary headquarters in buildings near the crime scene, working around the clock to interview neighbors, store owners, and anyone who might have passed through Leimert Park in the early hours of that morning. The investigation was not merely a search for a perpetrator. It was an attempt to understand the depths of human cruelty. Detectives followed every possible lead, even those that seemed trivial, in hopes of breaking the silence surrounding the crime. They mapped out every square foot of the vacant lot, searching for evidence that might have been overlooked, but the perpetrator had been incredibly thorough. There were no fingerprints, no discarded weapons, and no clear signs of struggle at the scene, which suggested that the body had been transported there after the crime had been committed elsewhere. The police department faced immense pressure from the mayor's office and the public to find the killer, leading to a frantic search that spread across the entire city. They interviewed over 150 men in the first few days alone, looking for anyone with a criminal record or a history of violent behavior. The investigators worked through the cold nights, fueled by coffee and a desperate need for justice, but every door they knocked on led to another dead end. They tried to build a profile of the suspect, thinking he might be someone who knew Elizabeth Short personally or someone with a medical background given the nature of the injuries. This was the beginning of what would become the most complex, frustrating, and enduring investigation in the history of the LAPD, a case that would haunt the department for generations to come. The investigation into the Black Dahlia murder is recorded as one of the most maddening challenges in forensic history, marking a period where traditional detective work was constantly undermined by the killer's elaborate games and the city's corrupt post-war atmosphere. Now, Los Angeles became a landscape of fear and suspicion. The detectives faced a complex web of anonymous letters, false confessions, and conflicting witness descriptions that rarely matched. The transformation of a young woman's dream into a national nightmare is a study in calculated theater and absolute malice. Legend says the killer chose the location not just for opportunity, but to send a message to the authorities. He utilized techniques of psychological warfare, creating a system that would prevent the police from ever feeling secure. He wasn't just committing a crime. He was building a riddle that would outlive him. He knew that if he played this game, he would stay in the headlines, a contingency plan that would ensure his name was spoken for generations. He sent letters to the press, including items of Elizabeth Short's personal property, such as her birth certificate, a photo album, and a letter she had written to a friend. This was a branding move that turned him into a pop culture horror. He worked with total secrecy, preserving the integrity of his anonymous identity to ensure that only he knew the truth of his motives. He left a trail of breadcrumbs that forced the world to look for him, a path riddled with traps and empty promises. This behavior indicated a deep-seated need to control the narrative, manipulate the public, and maintain his position as a man of feared influence. He worked with chilling speed, knowing that every letter sent increased the chance of panic, but he was also cold, moving with a deliberate rhythm that suggested he had planned his games for months before the first strike. He documented his successes in his letters, cross-referencing his events with police statements to prove he was always watching. This was not a random or panic streak. It was a clinical, calculated operation designed to protect his ego for a specific, future purpose. He utilized his knowledge of communication to ensure the games were structured correctly, drawing on theories of intelligence to build a mythology that would endure the harsh scrutiny of history. The forensic analysis performed decades later suggested He might have even had military or medical training, making the puzzle statistically impossible to break without the final keys he never revealed. The world heard swirling rumors of his identity, but for the public, it remained nothing more than a nightmare. He maintained the case file of his identity with complete, stony silence. His ability to conceal his life proved that he was a man who planned for every scenario, including the terrifying possibility that he would never be identified. He ensured that his name and the identity remained a permanent, haunting puzzle that future generations would struggle to solve. He was a master of his own fate, and in playing this game, he buried a piece of history that continues to drive people to the edge of insanity. The planning involved was meticulous, from the way he selected the location to the way he obscured his tracks in the city. Every move was weighed, and by the time the police arrived at his last known location, he had already become a phantom, leaving only the memory of his violence. The investigation into the identity of the Black Dahlia's killer did not end with the first leads. It became a global obsession that lasted for over 80 years. Dozens of professional and amateur investigators dedicated their lives to solving the riddle of the murderer, exploring every potential connection from the Hollywood social scene to the international criminal underworld. The authorities utilized the services of specialized forensic experts and criminal intelligence to trace the evidence, but their efforts resulted in no definitive identification. The police also considered the possibility that the killer was a doctor or someone with surgical training, a theory fueled by the precision of the crime, but this was never confirmed. The search for the killer became a national fascination, with citizens flooding the government with potential sightings and claims from individuals who reported seeing someone with his distinctive profile. The investigators verified each tip, but they never discovered the man behind the persona. The case remained the most significant unsolved mystery in the history of Los Angeles crime. Modern detectives continue to utilize technology to search for clues, including advanced DNA analysis of the evidence preserved by the police department. They found potential leads, but they could not verify if the killer had left them intentionally to misguide the search. The mystery deepened as the years passed without a breakthrough. We honor the memory of the victim and the investigators who dedicated their lives to this. The legacy of Dossier 56 is a lesson in the complexity of investigative mysteries and the potential for individuals to vanish without a trace. We are operating with a better understanding of the psychology behind these calculated decisions. We documented the full sequence of the mystery. This concludes our review of the endless search and the suspects who range from wealthy Hollywood figures to local criminals. The search for knowledge regarding the killer continues in the archives of history. The investigation into the Black Dahlia remains an open file, a testament to the fact that some secrets are kept very well. We hold the memory of the case in the light of our research. The facts remain, and the record endures. The hunt for the truth has become a story of its own, woven into the fabric of true crime lore. Every generation brings new people who believe they have found the secret, only to find more questions in silence. It is a story about the power of myth, about why we are drawn to the idea of a shadow who can taunt the law. The case files continue to circulate, and the obsession shows no signs of waning. Each new piece of technology brings a flicker of hope, but the killer remains one step ahead, his secrets buried deep under layers of time. We examine these failed attempts not to mock them, but to respect the sheer scale of the puzzle. It is a testament to his intelligence that he managed to build a legacy that remains untouchable by modern science. The case keeps its secrets well, and perhaps it is better that way. For as long as the killer remains unidentified, the legend will never die. We have explored the archives, listened to the theories, and walked the paths of those who came before us. This is the enduring power of the unknown. The story of the Black Dahlia is a wild ride full of dangerous turns that continues to challenge our understanding of criminal history and human mystery. It shows us that a single individual can change the atmosphere of a city, and it became a study in the complexity of psychological motivation. We look at this not just as a hunt for a shadow, but as a giant puzzle that teaches us to be curious about how we define criminal legends. The truth remains in the records, waiting for those who study the facts. The legacy of Dossier 56 is a lesson in the resilience of human curiosity and the terrifying potential for mystery to endure. We are operating with a better understanding of the realities of forensic investigation and the impact of systemic pressure. We honor the memory of the countless individuals whose lives were dedicated to solving this riddle, whose stories are also recorded in the official archives. The Black Dahlia legend stands as a definitive point in the history of international mystery. The world shifted in the aftermath of 1947. The archives are open, and the story continues to unfold as we look into the past. We remain satisfied that the investigation was as thorough as possible, but the mystery of the Black Dahlia is one of the most enduring stories of our time. It serves as a study in how we define what is lost and what remains to be found. The truth regarding the perpetrator remains hidden in the records, waiting for those who continue to search. We leave the story here for the next generation of investigators. Never stop asking questions and never stop exploring the unknown. The world is waiting for your discovery. The search for knowledge regarding the killer continues. He stopped his work in the 40s, but his presence in the cultural record is permanent. The legacy of Dossier 56 will remain as a reminder of the fragility of the peace we often take for granted. We hold the memory of the victim whose life was forever changed. Her story is more than just crime. It is a warning about the choices we make and how those choices echo through the centuries. We have laid out the facts, the legends, and the enduring questions that keep us up at night. The case may be cold, but the fire of discovery still burns bright. As we move forward, let these lessons remind you that the world is bigger than we think, and there are always new stories waiting to be told. Whether you are a fan of history, mystery, or just a good old-fashioned crime story, the Black Dahlia case provides everything you need to keep your mind active and your spirit adventurous. We have reached the final chapter of this dossier, but the book of history is never truly closed. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the foggy streets and dangerous alleys of post-war Los Angeles. You have walked the path of the investigator, felt the weight of the mystery, and seen the impact of a crime that defined an era. May your curiosity lead you to your own great discoveries, and may your own story be one worth telling. Subscribe to Mind 74. If you reached the end, thank you for being the best adventurers out there. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a dossier. Comment below, if you were in charge of this case, what would you do differently? Share this video with your best friends and join the hunt. We'll see you at the next mystery. Keep exploring.